Okay, so what we're doing today is we're going to make some pemmican on a snowy day here in Pennsylvania. I'm out at the yurt doing some camping, and I actually had some deer jerky. If you go back and watch some of my videos, I smoked some meat, and if you smoke meat a little too long, it starts to get real brittle to the point that it crushes up. But that's a perfect consistency if you do over smoke something to make pemmican, and that pemmican will last just as long as jerky if you make it correctly. So let's talk about that a little bit. So what's in pemmican and what is pemmican in general? Well, pemmican comes back from way back on the westward expansion of the United States. They would hunt buffalo, and then they would gather that, and they would actually make this ration to survive through the winter with this. So we're not going to be using buffalo today. We're going to be using some venison meat that I dried. And if you're going to dry it, you can also use a beef roast or something like that. You want to slice it real thin, dry it real good, to the point that, and I'm going to show you this shortly, it just cracks. You don't want it a jerky type of consistency. What else you're going to need? You can use tallow, but I'm going to actually use suet. And suet is actually kidney fat from an animal. And this I actually did purchase at the butcher shop, but you could use tallow. I think suet has a better taste to it than tallow, but you can mix them interchangeably. Suet was the preferred method, though, originally how to do this. The last thing that you would need is, and this is optional, if you want to add any type of dried berries. Now I'm going to use some dried blueberries in one batch and no berries in the other batch. The berries, if they have any moisture, of course, that's going to cause your pemmican to spoil quicker, but it adds a little bit more flavor. And once that stuff's dried out, there's different recipes and things you can make with it. So to get started, in this bush pot here, I already have some of the suet, okay? And I'll show you up close what this suet looks like. And the suet, it just looks like small little granules of fat, okay? The thing with this is it really holds its consistency when it's dry, when it's at room temperature, when it's not hot. So we're just going to take this suet, throw the lid on, and this is a slow process. You just want to render this down. It's just going to cook real slow. Just get some heat to it, keep stirring it, don't let it burn, and it's going to melt down just like if you were rendering any other type of fat or lard. So while that's going, I have a small container. You're going to want a small container to actually put your finished product in. And in here I have some dried blueberries, which we're going to add later on. Put this off to the side. And then I have my smoked meat, okay? Smoked and dried. So I'll show you how this just cracks, okay? It's just cracking apart. And that's how you want this. You don't want this, like, again, like I said, like a jerky type consistency. You want that, you can actually pulverize it. So I'm going to take my cup, and I have a stick here that I cut a little bit earlier, and throw some of this in, and like a mortar and pestle, I'm just going to break this down. And you can hear that just crushing apart. You want to get this super, super fine and all crushed down. So this will take a little bit of time, but our suet's cooking, so we're in no rush. And I'll show you what this is starting to look like and what consistency we're looking for with this. So as you can see, there's real fine pieces in there. These larger pieces need to get crushed down a little bit more, but it's almost pulverizing to the point of a powder. So that's what we're ultimately looking for. We want to keep breaking that down, our whole batch, until we have almost a powdered type meat. Okay? So get that in there, throw a little bit more in, and I'm just going to keep working with this. So, how much meat do I need? How much suet? Well, you want to have a 50-50 mixture of that. So right here I probably have about 4 ounces of meat, and I have about 4 or 5 ounces of suet. You're going to add berries, maybe an ounce and a half, something like that. So I'm going to just keep working with this. I'm going to keep checking this. I'll show you a little bit of footage here with the suet as it actually melts down, and I'll show you an up-close view of all the ingredients once I have this all pulverized, what it needs to look like, and the suet once it's in a liquid form. So here's the suet, and as you can tell, it's starting to liquefy. Okay, but it's pretty cold out now, so I'm gonna have to put this back on the fire, but I just wanted to show everybody what that looks like here as that's starting to cook down. So once that's totally liquefied, that'll be ready to go. The meat is pulverized, so you can see that almost looks like a powder at this point. Okay, there's some larger chunks, but that ain't gonna hurt anything. That's really broken down. And here I have my berries. These are just dried blueberries from this past season. You don't need a lot. I probably won't even use this much, and I can actually break them down if I would want to, but I'll probably just let these whole for this batch. And then, of course, like I said, a tin, and I have some wax paper in here just to hold it in there, and then I can pull it out of this tin, and I'll have a nice circle shape of the pemmican when it's all done. So these are the components, what they're looking like. As you can see, this suit's starting to set up from the cold, so I'm going to go put this back on the fire, and then once this is done, we will mix it all together and go from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is take off my suit that I have cooking. Lay my spoon right here for now. Actually, keep that right here. I'm going to take my berries and add them right to my meat. I'm going to take my meat and add that right into my suet, just like that. And I'm just going to mix that around. Get that good and coated. Super easy here. And again, you're using 50% suet, 50% meat, and then just add a little bit of berries if you want berries. You don't need to add anything else. This is all you want. You can see what that's starting to look like, and that's going to be it for now. So I'm going to take my container right here, get myself resituated, and I'm just going to push this right in. Now this is definitely one preservation method. If you were in a longer term type scenario and you were trapping or something like that, you can use, like I said, tallow. And if you had meat, you definitely do that. Do this. Show you guys what this looks like. Packed in there. Okay. So now all I'm going to do, it's pretty cold out, so this is going to set up pretty quick. Just going to lay this over like this. I can just throw the lid on like that, or I can keep the lid open just like that. Let that cool down, and we'll have ourselves pemmican. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this sit around, probably keep this lid cracked open for a little bit. That's going to cool down real quick because of the cold temperatures. And once I get my little round disc of it, we'll break it apart, take a little taste. It's not the most flavorful stuff, but it has fat, protein, and a little bit of sugar with them berries in. And you can always take that once it's done, and if it's in your kit, break it apart, fry it up. You can boil it if you would want to. You can also add that if you would have any kind of other flours or anything like that, just to extend it a little bit. But you need to remember, it's more of a survival type ration. It's really not something that you're going to want to say, hey, I'm going to sit down and eat this because it's the most enjoyable thing to eat. But if you work hard all day and you're out in the woods all day and that's what you have, say you were going out to experiment, try trapping and hunting and not take anything else, maybe just a small ration, that would taste pretty good at the end of the day. So we're going to let that stiffen up and then we'll give it a try. So here's the finished product. This is our finished pemmican. I have it in this tin like I showed earlier. I can actually take it out. I can keep it in that tin, or I can take it out like this. And as you see, it dries in a hard block. Somewhat looks like a hamburger in a sense. So break a piece of this off, just like that. Just like a meaty, fatty type consistency. It doesn't taste bad. The berries give it a little bit of flavor compared to not having the berries in there. But overall, it's really not that bad. If I was super hungry, man, this would be great. Especially cold weather, that fat will warm me up. So that's how you make pemmican. Really easy, straightforward process. This was Dan Wowak with Cold Cracker Bushcraft. I want to thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe below. And until the next one, enjoy the woods, guys.